Hello, everyone. My name is Rinder Rathod, and I am the Emerging Markets General Manager for InPress Technologies. And we are working on eradicating postpartum hemorrhage around the world. Postpartum hemorrhage, or PPH, is the number one cause of maternal death. It kills over 90,000 women globally, which means every 6 minutes, a woman dies from PPH, and over 12 million women suffer every year. This has a huge impact on the family, society, as well as the economy. So, for example, in developing countries, a child who loses her mother at childbirth is less likely to finish school, is less likely to live to the age of 5, and is more likely to be malnourished. For reasons like this, maternal deaths have been a huge global priority for many years. PPH is defined as excessive bleeding following childbirth, and in 80% of cases is caused by uteroanatomy, the inability of the uterus to contract after childbirth. Essentially, this means that the uterus is just too tired to regain its natural musculature and stop bleeding naturally. The treatment pathway for PPH starts off with the active management of the third stage of labor. This includes pharmaceuticals and uterine massage. Pharmaceuticals are things like oxytocin and misoprostol, and other uterotonics. Most uterotonics require refrigeration. So in places where there is no electricity or electricity is variable, they're often not viable. The other problem with pharmaceuticals is they require a 30-minute activation time. So the way pharmaceuticals work is you're given one dose when you exhibit PPH, and then you wait 30 minutes. And if you continue to bleed, you're given a second dose, and you wait 30 minutes. And then if you continue to bleed, there's a third and a fourth. So by the time we realize it's a pretty severe case of PPH, the mother could have been bleeding for over an hour at the very least, which is quite a long time. So once we realize it is a severe case, we move into this temporizing middle ground that includes things like uterine packing, a balloon tamponade, the anti-shock garment, or blood transfusions. Uterine packing is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking gauze and stuffing it into the uterus. A balloon tamponade is essentially a catheter with a balloon or a condom. The balloon or the condom is inserted into the uterus and then inflated with saline. And both uterine packing and balloon tamponades work by putting outward pressure on the uterus. And remember, we're trying to contract the uterus back down to its natural size. And the thought process there is that, if you have a cut on your arm and you put pressure on it, it will slow the bleeding. The anti-shock garment is, if you imagine a very tight belt with a weight over your abdomen, it's essentially just putting external pressure on your uterus to slow blood loss. And of course, transfusions where available will try to replenish as much blood as they can as PPH continues. The problem with this step is that there isn't a ton of confidence in it. The physicians and nurses that we've spoken to use packing or UBT as this, or the anti-shock garment as a stopgap measure. They're great to transport the woman to a higher level facility, or to ready the woman for the next stage, or even give pharmaceuticals enough time to actually work and stop PPH. A UBT or packing will take anywhere from 6 to 24 hours just to start working. So you can imagine it's actually a pretty long time period of waiting there. The last step is surgery, which includes things like arterial ligation, a B-Lynch suture, or hysterectomy. Arterial ligation is manually closing each artery. A B-Lynch suture, imagine if you pull out the uterus and tie a suture around it and stick it back in. That's essentially the concept behind a B-Lynch suture. A little more complex, though, actually doing the surgery. And the last step is a hysterectomy, which is a full removal of your uterus. And of course, that leaves you unable to have any additional children after that procedure. These are all fast, yes, but they are extremely invasive and very expensive, and they're not always available. So a rural clinic in Kenya is not necessarily going to have access to a B-Lynch suture. And then with each of these steps and each escalation, we're actually spending a lot of time trying to stop blood loss, which means the woman is continuing to lose blood, and the more blood loss means a higher risk of morbidities and a higher risk of mortalities. And that also means with each escalation in treatment, a greater expense to both the patient and the hospital. Our device presents a new treatment paradigm. We reduce PPH mortality and morbidity because we are very fast. We're effective within minutes. We are easy to use and require very little training. And we actually can quantify blood loss once our device has been placed and activated. So our device is this green and white right here. The pink outside is the uterus. So our device is inserted transvaginally such that this loop sits inside the uterus and this occlusion balloon sits just at the base of the cervix. The balloon is inflated using this port and it creates a seal in the uterine cavity. We then attach a vacuum canister and a vacuum to that port right there and apply a very light vacuum. This removes any blood that's in the uterus and then encourages the uterus to contract and self-tamponade, naturally leading to cessation of hemorrhage. Our device has been used in 10 women in a first-in-human study in Indonesia, and in each of those cases, we were able to stop hemorrhage in less than 2 minutes. Just again, a quick comparison, pharmaceuticals take up to 30 minutes just to start working. So our market is actually quite large. This map gives you an idea of maternal mortality ratios around the world. The dark pink having more deaths and the lighter pink fewer. And 30% of all maternal deaths are actually caused by postpartum hemorrhage. So this graph actually correlates really well with PPH deaths as well as PPH incidence rates. So the darker areas the lighter areas such as US and Europe, 2 to 4% of all births experience PPH. That number is closer to 20% in Africa and closer to 8 to 12 in Asia. So that gives us a pretty big market, and at a reasonable transfer price of about $50, that gives us a $600 million market globally. And then if you pull out the US and EU at a slightly higher transfer price, we have another $40 million market. We also have the ability to have a huge global impact. You heard me say we want to eradicate postpartum hemorrhage around the world. So our device gives us the opportunity to potentially save 90,000 mothers from dying from PPH and reduce the morbidities caused by 12 million cases of PPH every year. It also gives us the opportunity to save care providers a lot of time and a lot of money by preventing a lot of those steps of escalation. And it also has a huge impact on families. With our device, we hope that a woman who might have experienced severe morbidities is going to be able to go home and enjoy and take care of their newborn and help it actually grow to be a wonderful human being. And to make that impact, our business model is sustainable profitability. So what that means is that InPress works on the R&D, building the IP portfolio and the brand awareness around our device. We provide manufacturing expertise. We are working on gathering the clinical evidence that will enable us to get our regulatory approvals. And we're also building a network of leaders around the world that can be our advocates. We're looking to partners who can help us distribute and sell our device globally. And this graph gives you an idea of how we're spending our time and money right now. In the last few years and next year, we will continue to spend our time on R&D efforts as well as working on our global trial, as well as our IDE. We hope to have regulatory approval at least in Europe in 2017, which will allow us to do a limited amount of sales in 2017 and 2018. We hope to have FDA clearance at some point in 2018, which will enable us to begin selling globally in 2019. And that allows us to break even pretty early in 2019, which is exciting. We have already amassed a great network of partners. Merck for Mothers actually gave us a grant to do some on-the-ground research in India to figure out how to make our device more applicable for low-income markets. Rice 360 and Cal Poly also assisted with that in helping us think through ways to reduce COGS and how to provide a low cost vacuum. The Fogarty Institute for Innovation is a medical device incubator that we currently reside in, that's based in Mountain View, California, and we are now a GSBI alum. And GSBI has really helped us think through not only our business model, but our impact model, and ensure that we get out to save as many lives as we possibly can. We also have a great network of thought leadership. Dr. Metin Gulmezoglu is the coordinator of maternal and perinatal health at the World Health Organization. We are working with him on a global trial to test our device in low resource settings. We are also working with Dr. Errol Kumaran, who is a former president of the International Federation of Gynecology and Obstetrics. He is a co-author of our first in human study that was recently published in the Green Journal in July 2016. Dr. Sue Ellen Miller, who is the inventor of the anti-shock garment, is just a wonderful person and has been a great mentor to us for many years now. And Dr. Geeta Arjun is the newest to our team, and she is a clinical advisor. She has written books on labor and delivery, and is just a great global thought leader in the space. We are a team of very passionate and very innovative group of people who really want to eradicate postpartum hemorrhage. We've already done a lot with very little. We've successfully completed our first in human clinical trial. We have already built a strong IP portfolio, as well as have a defined pathway with FDA as well as CE. We are trying to build our network of key opinion leaders. We have completed our Series A financing, and we also have started a InPress research group that will tackle this global study I spoke about a little earlier. And we actually just got our first IRB approval for IDE clinical trial, which means we hope to get cases in the next few weeks for that next trial. What we're looking for now are partners and funding. And we're looking for partners who are really vested and want to be with us for a long time. We're raising $2 million for our IDE study that will enable us to get our regulatory clearances. An additional $1 million to help us reduce the COGS of our global device, and then an additional $3 million that will be used for the global trial with the World Health Organization. And that's it. Thank you very much. We hope to hear from you, and we can hopefully work together to eradicate postpartum hemorrhage around the world. Thank you very much.